The 70s gave us legendary bands, unforgettable songs, and a whole new sound. But it also carried with heartbreaking losses that no fan was ready for. Behind the spotlight and the screaming crowds were exceptional artists who burned bright but were taken far too soon. These are 10 most tragic stories of 1970s forgotten stars. Number 10. Terry Kath of Chicago. Terry Kath wasn't just another guitarist in a rock band. He was the driving force behind Chicago's groundbreaking sound. His guitar work didn't just support the music, it defined it. Tracks like 25 or 6 to 4 and Make Me Smile carried his signature touch, blending rock, jazz, and even classical styles into something the world had never quite heard before. Hendrix once admitted that Kath was even better than him. Coming from Hendrix, that's not just a compliment, it's a crown. Born in Chicago in 1946, Terry grew up surrounded by music and taught himself to play guitar. His raw talent and fearless creativity quickly set him apart, and soon he co-founded the band that would become Chicago. Their success skyrocketed, but behind the curtain, Terry was carrying battles of his own. He was tired of pressure to make radio hits instead of the music he loved. He was also struggling with heavy drinking, drug use, and a dangerous fascination with guns that worried everyone around him. By January of 1978, tensions in the band were running high. Chicago had just split from their longtime manager, and Terry was more restless than ever. On January 23rd, after a party at the home of a band roadie in Woodland Hills, California, tragedy struck. Terry, joking around with his pistols like he often did, picked up a semi-automatic 9mm. He told a friend not to worry, even saying, "What do you think I'm going to do? Blow my brains out?" He didn't realize a bullet was already in the chamber. In a split second, the gun went off near his temple. Terry Kath was gone at just 31 years old, 1 week before his birthday. Chicago kept going, but many say their true peak ended that night.
The road, it's a heavy load, but I'll get by.
Number 9. Danny Whitten of Crazy Horse.
And the stars in the sky don't mean nothing to you.
Danny Ray Whitten was born in Columbus, Georgia on May 8, 1943. He was a soft-spoken guy, but when he picked up a guitar, everything changed. Neil Young once said, "Every musician has one person they can play with better than anyone else on earth." For Neil, that person was Danny Whitten. Whitten helped shape Neil's early sound in ways that still echo today. On the album Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, Danny stood right next to Neil, co-singing Cinnamon Girl and trading guitar lines on Down by the River and Cowgirl in the Sand. Those songs became blueprints for grunge 20 years later. But while his music soared, Danny's body betrayed him. He was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, a painful condition that made it hard to play. To numb the pain, he turned to heroin. At first, it was just a way to cope. Soon, it became the center of his life. By 1972, his friends in Crazy Horse had no choice but to let him go. He showed up to rehearsals unable to keep time or remember parts.
If I stay here just a little bit longer.
Neil Young brought him back for one last chance, inviting him to join the Stray Gators on tour. But Danny arrived in terrible shape again, and Neil had to let him go a second time. That night, November 18, 1972, Danny was given $50 and a plane ticket back to Los Angeles. Instead of flying home, he mixed alcohol with diazepam, trying to get clean. The combination killed him. He was just 29. Neil never forgot him. He poured his grief into The Needle and the Damage Done, one of the most heartbreaking songs ever written about addiction. And Danny left his own mark too. He wrote I Don't Want to Talk About It, a song that would later become a massive hit for Rod Stewart. Number 8. Pete Ham of Badfinger.
I remember finding out about.
Pete Ham's story starts with promise and ends in tragedy. Born on April the 27th, 1947, in Swansea, Wales, Pete became the heart and soul of Badfinger, the first band signed to Apple Records that wasn't the Beatles themselves. Imagine that, the Fab Four handpicking your group. Their debut single was Come and Get It, written by Paul McCartney, and it was an instant hit. But Pete didn't need the Beatles to write for him. His songs, No Matter What, Day After Day, and Baby Blue, became classics in their own right. His crowning achievement came when he co-wrote Without You with bandmate Tom Evans. Harry Nilsson's cover turned it into a global #1, and decades later Mariah Carey would make it a hit all over again. Behind the scenes, though, the band was falling into the wrong hands. Manager Stan Polly controlled their money and siphoned it away. When Apple Records collapsed, Warner Brothers signed Badfinger, but Polly disappeared with their advance. By 1975, the band was broke. Pete's salary checks bounced, his mortgage loomed, and his girlfriend was expecting their first child. On April 23rd, Pete got a phone call confirming the worst. The money was gone. Hours later, in his garage studio, he hanged himself. He was only 27. His suicide note ended with one chilling line: Stan Polly is a soulless bastard. 1 month later, Pete's daughter was born. Number 7. Tom Evans of Badfinger. For Tom Evans, the pain didn't stop after Pete's death. Tom had been Pete's closest collaborator, co-writing Without You with him. Losing Pete left a hole he could never fill. He grew withdrawn, battling depression and watching the royalties from their biggest song get tied up in endless lawsuits. By the early 1980s, the remaining members of Badfinger were fighting over money that never seemed to arrive. Tom's despair only deepened as arguments grew bitter. On November 18, 1983, exactly 11 years to the day after Danny Whitten's death, Tom had a heated phone call with bandmate Joey Molland over royalties. The next morning, he hanged himself in his garden. He was 36. The cruel twist? Just a few years later, there was a revival of interest in Badfinger's music. Baby Blue even returned to the charts after being featured in film and TV. But by then, both Pete and Tom were gone. Number 6. Earl Hooker of Chicago Blues. If you love blues, you've heard the name Hooker. And no, not just John Lee Hooker. His cousin Earl Zebedee Hooker was carving out his own legend in Chicago. Earl was born in Mississippi in 1929 but raised in Chicago, where blues ran through the streets like blood through veins. Earl wasn't just good, he was dazzling. His slide guitar skills were so sharp, B.B. King once called him the best of the modern slide guitarists. That's praise from royalty. He didn't just play the blues, he bent it, stretched it, and added fire to it. But while his fingers danced across the guitar, his body was under attack. Earl had tuberculosis, a cruel disease that stalked him for years. It didn't matter how many clubs he filled or how many tours he booked, his health kept pulling him down. By the late 1960s, he was gaining traction internationally. He was finally breaking through, traveling overseas, introducing audiences to a blues style that was both raw and new. But in April of 1970, tuberculosis claimed him. Earl was only 40. Halfway through the list. If you're enjoying these stories of forgotten stars gone too soon, hit subscribe and join us as we keep their music alive. Number 5. Norman Johnson of the Jive. 5 doo-wop was the heartbeat of the early 60s, and one group that carried it proudly into the next decade was the Jive 5. Smooth harmonies, romantic ballads, and that Brooklyn soul. That was their trademark. Norman Johnson was one of the men behind that sound. The Jive 5 gave us hits like My True Story and What Time Is It? Their songs weren't just tunes, they were time capsules of young love, heartbreak, and joy. Fans loved them because their harmonies felt like home. But tragedy doesn't pick its time. In 1970, while touring in Toronto, Norman fell gravely ill. Pneumonia hit him hard, and he never recovered. He died that same year at 35 years, leaving the group without one of its pillars. Number 4. Alan Blind Owl Wilson of Canned Heat. If you know the song Going Up the Country, you know Alan Wilson. His high, haunting voice became the anthem of Woodstock. He was the heart of Canned Heat, a band that carried blues into the psychedelic age. Alan wasn't just a singer, he was a scholar of the blues. He taught older blues legends their own forgotten songs and gave their music new life. Fans nicknamed him Blind Owl because of his glasses and quiet nature. He was brilliant but painfully shy, almost out of place in the chaotic world of touring and fame. Behind the music, Alan wrestled with depression. The pressures of the road, the loneliness, the weight of his own thoughts, they pushed him into a darker place. He relied on barbiturates to cope, but by 1970, his struggles were growing worse. On September 3rd, his bandmates found him on a hillside behind Bob Bear Heights' home in Topanga Canyon, just before the band was scheduled to depart for a festival in Berlin. The cause? A barbiturate overdose, which was widely considered to be a suicide. He was only 27. Number 3. Janis Joplin of Big Brother and The Holding Company. If the blues was Alan Wilson's gentle whisper, Janis Joplin was its scream. She was raw energy wrapped in feathers, beads, and a voice that could break your heart in half. Janis first broke out with Big Brother and The Holding Company. Songs like Piece of My Heart turned her into the queen of rock festivals. Her voice wasn't polished, it was jagged, filled with pain, filled with life. That's why people loved her. She sang the way they felt. But fame didn't fix her loneliness. She battled with self-doubt, feeling like she never truly belonged. Drugs and alcohol became her escape. By 1970, she was at the height of her career and the bottom of her spirit. On October 4th, 1970, Janis missed a recording session. Hours later, she was found in her hotel room in Los Angeles, gone from an accidental heroin overdose. She was 27, placing her in the infamous 27 Club, alongside other legendary artists. A tragic reminder of how often brilliance burned out far too soon. Her last album, Pearl, came out after her death. It gave the world Me and Bobby McGee, a song that still carries her soul. It was her biggest success, but also the most painful reminder of what we lost.
Just looking out at the rain.
Number 2, James Shep Shepherd of the Heartbeats and Shep and the Limelights. When James Shep Shepherd sang, it wasn't just music, it was longing, heartache, and hope wrapped in harmony. Every kid who ever missed someone far away found their feelings in Shep's voice. As the lead singer of the Heartbeats, Shepherd helped shape doo-wop's golden age with 1,000 Miles Away, a song that became the soundtrack to Lovesick Nights. Later, with Shep and the Limelights, he gave us Daddy's Home, a classic that still tugs at hearts decades later. By 1970, Oldies revivals were bringing groups like his back into the spotlight, but tragedy struck before the comeback could take hold. On January 24, 1970, Shepherd was found beaten and murdered in his car on the Long Island Expressway. He was only 34. The man who sang of coming home never made it back himself. His death silenced a voice that had given so much to the genre. But the songs, those aching, tender melodies, keep him alive in every harmony.
I made it back home to you.
And now we come to the last story. A bluesman whose sound shaped rock itself yet whose life ended just as his star was rising. Number 1. Slim Harpo of Louisiana Swamp Blues.
You got me feeling so good.
James Moore, better known as Slim Harpo, was the sound of Louisiana Swamp Blues. Lazy grooves, moody harmonica, and lyrics that could be sly or soulful. I'm a king bee, rainin' in my heart, baby, scratch my back. Songs that didn't just stay in the South. The Rolling Stones, the Yardbirds, even the Kinks covered him.
This little girl sure knows how to scratch.
By the late 60s, he was finally breaking into bigger audiences with new tours lined up. But on January 31st, 1970, Slim Harpo died suddenly of a heart attack at just 46. Just as the blues world was ready to embrace him fully, the music stopped. Slim's swampy, hypnotic sound lives on, echoing through rock, R&B, and every harmonica player who ever bends a note his way.
Just go ahead and scratch it. That's what.
The 1970s gave us legends, but it also took too many far too soon. Behind every hit song was a fragile life, carrying struggles we may never fully understand. What makes it so tragic is that many of these losses could have been prevented with better support for addiction, stronger mental health care, and safer working conditions. Their songs still play on radios, playlists, and in our memories, but the artists themselves never got to see just how much they'd mean to generations that followed. The price of their brilliance was often too high, and their stories are both a warning and a celebration. If you want more stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share your favorite lost legend in the comments below.